I was bored with my husband and cheated with my boss multiple times at hotels. But he found out, froze our accounts, got me fired and kicked me out of the house. I'm a 32-year-old woman. My husband, Daniel, 35. My boss, Laura, 42. I'm not looking for comfort or absolution, just to tell how I crossed a line, how they found me, and how, without shouting or slamming doors, they left me with nothing. If anyone needs an example that decisions have a price, here is mine. The first time my card did not go through was at 7:15 in the morning at the corner coffee shop, just when I thought the worst thing that could happen to me that day was a meeting with finance. The card reader beeped with that dry sound, and the cashier looked at me with a polite smile. "It seems it was declined," she said. "Let us try another one." I tried the joint account. Same beep, same declined. I told her I would be right back, put my dignity and hunger in my purse, and went out into the street with my heart in a knot. The air felt colder than usual. On the next block, I checked the bank app, account inactive for maintenance on all the ones connected to Daniel. My personal one, the poor one, the one I used for small treats, had $6,314. 30 of those were already committed to a subscription I swore I would cancel and did not. I did not call Daniel, I did not call anyone. I walked to the office and promised myself I would fix it during my lunch break. It is incredible the number of small lies one tells oneself to avoid facing the big one. I met Laura 18 months ago when I joined as the campaign team coordinator. My resume had words like growth, optimization, and A/B testing, and she had the kind of look that turns any phrase into a challenge. Her office smelled of expensive wood and reheated coffee. She wore discreet watches, the kind only a certain type of person recognizes. She laughed little, but when she did, you wanted her to do it again. The first time she touched my shoulder was on a Tuesday at 8:30 in the evening. Everyone else had already left. We were reviewing a piece for a big client, and I could not find the exact word. She stood behind me, saw the cursor blinking, and said, "Do not name it, just imply it. It is more effective when you do not say everything." Her hand stayed for just a second. Warm, kind. An insignificant thing, I thought. She had a wedding band on her right ring finger, a thin ring that she sometimes took off and put back on as if it bothered her. I also had a ring on my left hand. Two adult, busy, responsible people. Two people who, months later, would cross that line as if it were just another tile in the hallway. At home, Daniel and I had routines that anchored us. Sunday market, Wednesday pasta, Friday movie night. He worked in financial technology. I'm not going to pretend I do not know what that means, and he had a talent for taking problems apart like someone disassembling a watch piece by piece. He was patient, orderly, affectionate, in a way that does not make noise. He was never a man of big speeches, but he would warm my feet under the blanket and leave me notes on the fridge when he left early. "Bought your favorite yogurts. I love you." I would stick them on the door with magnets as if accumulating them made the house more solid. The first message that crossed the line was banal. Friday, 9:47 at night. Me to Laura. "Did you get home okay?" Laura, "Yes." "Are you okay?" Me, "Yes." Laura, "Do you want to talk?" We went up to the rooftop of the building where I live. The wind messed up our hair. We talked about strategies, about pressure, about how unfair the market can be. When I came down, I had 2 messages from Daniel. "Daniel, I left the wine on the table for you." "Daniel, I love you." I did not reply to the second one until the next day. If you ask me why, I do not have an answer that does not make me look bad. At 9:15, with the coffee I managed to get for free because the receptionist owed me one, I entered the meeting room. Laura was already there. She smiled at me almost imperceptibly, the kind of gesture you learn to read when you should be learning to ignore it. We presented the campaign. I talked about metrics, she talked about vision. At the end, the client said, "Brilliant. I trust you." Later, in the hallway, Laura leaned in towards me. "Very good," she whispered, low enough to seem secret and loud enough to make me want more. I fell in love with the power, not the person. It is hard to write it like that, but it is the truth. Lunch. I opened the bank app again. Same message, inactive. I wrote to Daniel. "Me, is there a problem with the accounts?" I tried to pay. The three dots of typing appeared and disappeared. 5 minutes, 10, 15. Then a calendar notification arrived. Meeting today 6 in the evening. Daniel. Address, our house. Subject, let us talk. The rest of the afternoon was a noise without music. On Slack, someone posted a celebratory GIF. I replied with an emoji. At 5:52, I was at the front door with a lump in my throat. On the floor, a manila envelope with my name in Daniel's handwriting. The locks had not changed, but they felt different. On the table, my wine as always. And Daniel, standing with a blue folder. His face was not that of a furious man, it was that of someone who has already done the math and does not need to recalculate. Sit down, please, he said. I sat. He opened the folder. Inside, printouts of messages, screenshots, photos of hotel receipts, a geolocation report that, if I did not know what he did for a living, would have seemed like science fiction. I'm not going to shout, he began. I do not think that will do any good. I'm going to tell you what I know and what I'm going to do. If you have anything to clarify, you listen to me when I'm finished. I swallowed hard. Daniel, When I'm finished, he repeated without raising his voice. He turned the first page. I know you're having a relationship with your boss, Laura. It started 8 months ago. I'm not going to get into details. I have enough proof that it is not necessary. He opened another page. The hotel detail, the disguised name on the card, as if an accounting alias could hide anything. I also know you used the joint card twice to pay for rooms. Few times enough to leave a trail. She covered the rest. Other times were off-site meetings. It does not matter. What matters is that you chose to do it. He looked at me. There was no hatred in his eyes. There was a resolution that hurt much more. Daniel, it was a mistake. I'm not going to argue about adjectives, he interrupted me. I'm going to give you facts. I called the bank this morning and asked to separate and freeze everything that could be frozen. I transferred my personal savings to a different account. The joint account is blocked. The main car is in my name. I will use it. You can have the compact, which is also in my name, but you can use it until Friday. This month's rent is already paid. I will ask you to stay at the apartment tomorrow to pack your things. The world shrank around me like clothes washed in hot water. Daniel, please, let us talk. I know I failed you, but I'm not interested in a creative explanation, he said with that calmness I had learned to love and was now learning to fear. And not out of pride, because it does not serve me. We have a prenuptial agreement. You signed it before we bought the apartment. Do you remember? Of course I remembered. Little papers you sign when you are in love, convinced they will never be relevant. Clauses that seem as distant as a country you have only seen in photos. The conduct clause, he continued, states what happens in case of proven infidelity, separation of assets without compensation, the property remains under my ownership, and furniture is distributed according to the initial inventory. I'm not going to fight over the toaster. I will give you everything I do not care about, but I'm not going to support you. And not because I hate you, but because I do not want to. I earn my own money, I tried to say, as if that made me strong. Perfect, then you will be fine, he replied, and for a second he almost smiled, but it was not a smile, it was a final gesture of courtesy. One more thing. Tomorrow I'm going to formally inform your compliance department and human resources about the relationship with your direct supervisor. I will do it with dates and proof. Not because I want to see you on the street, he looked at me, and for the first time there was a hint of pain, but because I'm not going to allow this to end up affecting your team or for you to become the next Silence story. You chose this mess, and she put you in a position of inequality. It is someone's responsibility to put it in writing. I was speechless. We had codes, I thought. We had that complicity of dirty laundry is washed at home, but that, I understood, was another lie I told myself. And if you do not tell them, I said, hating the pleading sound of my own voice. I can resign. I can leave quietly. Daniel held my gaze. You unintentionally taught me that what is not named gets repeated. I'm going to name it. The phone vibrated. A message from Laura. Laura, is everything okay? Daniel saw it. He did not ask for permission, he took it, placed it face down on the table. We do not owe each other anything else, he said, closing the folder. You can stay tonight. I will go to a hotel. You come back tomorrow. I will pick up Milo on Saturday. The dog's name was like a punch. Milo, the rescued mutt who slept on my feet while I worked on the couch. Milo, whom Daniel walked at 6 in the morning without making a sound to let me sleep. Milo, who was registered in Daniel's name because I did not want to fill out forms. Daniel, please, do not take Milo from me, I murmured. I'm not taking him from you, he said. I'm keeping him. It is different. I'm not telling you this to hurt you, I'm telling you so you are aware. I'm going to take care of him. I did not cry. Not because I was strong, but because I was in shock. Daniel took his keys, a backpack I had not seen, and left without slamming the door. The apartment was left with its strange silence, one I did not know. I opened the manila envelope. Inside, besides the evidence, was a single piece of paper in his handwriting. I do not owe you a moral explanation. I'm giving you back the piece I cannot give you. D. I slept in my clothes on the couch. I dreamed I was walking down an infinite hallway with doors that would not open, and when I finally found a key, the hallway changed shape. The next day was born with the same impassive light as always. At 8 in the morning, Human Resources wrote to me, summoning me to a meeting to review a compliance matter related to interpersonal relationships within the hierarchy. I read the sentence 3 times. My throat tasted like metal. I replied confirming my attendance at 11:30. At 9, Laura wrote to me. Laura, are you available at 10 in my office? Me, I have HR at 11:30. Do you know anything? Laura, come at 10. I entered her office with a rigid body. I closed the door and she opened it again. Leave the door ajar, she said. And her voice was not the usual one. It was a voice of risk. What did you do? I asked, pathetic. Compliance called me at 7:45, she said bluntly. They received a dossier. Our conversations, dates, hotel receipts. What did you do? Daniel did it, I answered. He knows everything. Laura placed her hands on the desk and exhaled. God, she said, not as a prayer, but as a gesture. And why the hell? Do not treat me as if this is only my fault, I said. And it was the first time I had spoken to her with that strength. You sought me out. You told me we should not name it. You promised you would protect me if something happened. Laura looked at me with a mix of compassion and annoyance. I told you to be discreet, not to be careless, she replied. And yes, I will protect you as much as I can, but understand, I have more to lose. I just lost everything, I blurted out, and the word everything tasted like a formality. And I do not want this to end with me being the one who provoked you. You were my boss. Laura paused. For a second, it seemed like she was going to say something like, I'm sorry. Instead, she adjusted her watch. I'm going to talk to HR. This conversation did not happen. If they ask you, say it was a mistake, that it was short, that it is over. If you say that, maybe this will end in a suspension for both of us. If you get ethical, we both sink. Ethical. The word hung in the room like a crooked painting. Do not ask me to lie to protect your position, I said, trembling, and I knew that sentence would cost me dearly. You had the responsibility. I was an accomplice, yes, but you crossed a line with me. She looked at me with a different kind of serenity, a serenity I had not noticed until now, that of someone who knows how to play her game. As you wish, she said. See you in HR. She did not dismiss me. She did not ask me to sit down. She left me with the door ajar as a reminder that transparency can be a stage set. At 11:30, the Human Resources room smelled of disinfectant. Anna from Compliance and Oscar from HR were there. On the table, a different folder from Daniel's, but just as damning. Thanks for coming, Anna said professionally. We received a report regarding a potential violation of the policy on relationships in the workplace, specifically within hierarchical structures. Before we ask you questions, we are going to remind you of the policy and the possible consequences. We want your version. I did not make things up, I did not cry, I was not a hero. I told the truth, edited so it was not pornographic. I said yes, there had been a relationship, it had lasted for months, it was consensual, it had ended yesterday. I lied on the last point, but I understood that everything here was about carefully weighed phrases. Was there any kind of pressure or performance consequence associated with the relationship? Anna asked. I thought about the times Laura gave me access to projects, about the work dinners, about the way her hand on my shoulder became a code. It was pressure. Not in the classic sense. It was a system. Yes. And I was part of it. There were no explicit threats or conditions, I said. But there was an asymmetry. And yes, now that I say it out loud, I understand how serious it is. Oscar took a note. Anna nodded. We are going to suspend you preventively while we investigate, she said. It could last between 1 and 2 weeks. During that time, we ask you not to contact Laura to discuss the matter. I nodded. There was no point in fighting. I signed a paper. They revoked my access to some systems. I handed over my physical access card. I felt naked, with a nakedness that has nothing to do with clothes. On my way out, I ran into Laura in the hallway. Her face was a neutral mask. Her lips said, "We will talk." Her eyes said, "You have already lost." I walked aimlessly for 2 hours. At 2:10 in the afternoon, Daniel sent me a single message. Daniel, there is a box with your things set aside. Leave the keys and the garage remote in the bowl by the entrance. Milo is with me. I will call you when I know about legal dates. I replied with a minuscule, okay, that felt like a defeat. By 4 in the afternoon, I had packed clothes, a couple of books, a coffee maker that Daniel left for me because he hates that model, and the small plant I had been watering since January into 3 suitcases. I took the compact car. I drove without a plan to a cheap apart hotel that advertised itself as pet-friendly. I laughed at the irony with a sound I never want to make again. That night, Laura called. I answered on the 3rd ring. I was suspended, she said without any frills. You too, I suppose. Yes. They are going to dig deep. Yes. I do not know what is going to happen. Yes. We had nothing else. We were hanging by a thread we had woven ourselves. Before she hung up, she said, "This does not get told. Whatever happens, we each handle it. Do not betray me." The laugh got stuck in my throat. I'm not betraying you, I replied. We have already done it all. At 8 the next morning, I received an email from Daniel's law firm. Subject, notification. Body, attached is the initial documentation for the marital dissolution process and the corresponding provisional measures in accordance with the prenuptial agreement signed on date. The PDFs were in an order that felt like a punishment. My eyes stopped on a sentence. Custody of the domestic animal, Milo, registered in the name of the gentleman, remains with the gentleman. The lady may visit him with prior coordination and approval of the gentleman. I did not cry. I opened the closet of the apart hotel. It was empty, as it should be. I stuck my head inside for a second and breathed in the smell of damp wood. I felt like a supporting actress who had walked onto the wrong set. At 10:20, Anna called me. I'm informing you that the suspension remains and that, as part of the process, we will be reviewing internal communications. We ask you not to delete messages or files. I understand, I said. She took a professional pause. I know it is not my place, but I suggest you seek support. This situation does not define your career, even if it affects it. Thank you, I said. I did not know if her kindness was helping me or hurting me more. I hung up. I went to the window. The city continued its rhythm. A delivery person was fighting with a traffic light. 2 people were arguing over a parking spot. Everything seemed intact, as if I were the only earthquake. At 12, Laura sent me a message that I still have not deleted. Laura, they have asked for my devices. They are going to review everything. If they ask you, stick to the story. Do not mention me in terms. She deleted and rewrote. Laura, do not sell me out. Me, I'm not selling you out. Laura, they are going to separate us from the company. Or me. We will know on Monday. Me, I'm sorry, Laura. Laura, me too. Not for the same reason. I put my phone away, put on my shoes, went for a walk. I thought about calling a friend. I did not. What do you say? Hello, my life has just been frozen. I bought a sandwich with my last dollars from my personal card. It was not good. I ate it anyway. At 3 in the afternoon, Daniel sent a final message. Daniel, I left an envelope at the reception with documents that belong to you. I do not need a response. I went down. The envelope contained copies of my diploma, a notebook with passwords I always forgot, and a small Milo keychain he gave me for Christmas. I sat in the lobby of the apart hotel with the keychain in my palm and my heart in my mouth. I cannot say I did not see any of it coming. I saw signs and interpreted them as pretty lights on the highway. The problem with pretty lights is that they also blind you. That night, for lack of anything better to do, I wrote the beginning of this. Not for catharsis, not for therapy, for the record, so that when someone asks me how they took everything from me, I have a precise place to point. They did not take it from me. I left things on the table. Daniel just closed his hand first. Messages I never sent. To Daniel, I'm sorry. Not for the discovery, for the person I became when you were not looking. To Laura, you are not as strong as I thought. Oh, yes you are, and that is why you are not looking at me now. To myself, this is not the first mistake you have made, but it is the most expensive. Monday arrived with its cruel punctuality. At 9:05, a formal email from the company. Notification is hereby given of the immediate termination of Laura N., VP of Marketing, for violation of internal policies. 2 minutes later, another email. Notification is hereby given of the 15-day contract suspension of employee Patricia G. while the disciplinary process is underway. Mine came with a hearing on Thursday. Hers had no hearing, it had a final stop. At 9:15, Laura sent me a short message. Laura, I was fired, my access was deleted. Take care. I did not reply. Not for revenge, for economy. At 10:30, Oscar called me. I'm anticipating that the initial recommendation is termination, he said in a textbook voice. You can present your version on Thursday. You have the right to bring someone with you. It is best that you be clear and concise. I understand, I said. And the severance will be paid according to the contract and days worked, without extras. Indemnity does not apply. The grounds being studied are disciplinary. I nodded, even though he could not see me. We hung up. At 11, my battery died. At 11:05, I ran out of tears. I did not want to cry. At 11:20, I touched the chain of Milo's keychain as if it were a rosary. And at 12, I realized that this story would have several parts, because losing everything is not a single blow, it is a series of gestures. The Thursday of the hearing dawned with an uncooperative sky, a proper gray, not even an excuse to be dramatic. I put on the least wrinkled blouse I could find and a pair of pants that used to fit me perfectly and now seemed borrowed. I put a notebook, a pen, and a bottle of water I did not open into my backpack. At the reception, they took my ID badge as if they were tearing off a label. Anna and Oscar were in the room along with a young lawyer who introduced himself as Luis from legal. He had the voice of someone who reads contracts out loud until the other party signs out of exhaustion. Thanks for coming, Patricia, Anna began. We are going to record your version. You already know the policy. Relationships between supervisors and subordinates are prohibited. We are not evaluating morality, we are evaluating risk and conflict of interest. I nodded. I did not ask how long it would take. They did not promise speed either. Tell us how it started, said Oscar. Dates, places. If there were any work decisions that could have been influenced. The word influence made a noise. I told the basics. The first night on the rooftop, the off-sites, the late-night messages that started with "Are you up?" and ended in rooms registered as private meeting rooms. I said she decided it should not be named. I said I accepted it. I did not apologize in every sentence because I did not want to turn my version into a pamphlet. Luis looked at me like someone listening to a true crime podcast. Were there direct benefits to your position? He asked. Promotions, extraordinary bonuses, account reassignments. I was not promoted, I said. But she gave me a large account that normally 3 of us would have fought for. Did she condition you? Not with words, with access. Anna made a long note, then left a silence for me to fill. I did not. Sometimes silence is the only thing that sounds honest. All right, she said. Do you want to add anything? Yes, I answered. I'm not going to ask for this to disappear. I just want to make it clear. I searched for the exact expression, as if pulling a thread from my shirt. that I chose poorly and that she, as a boss, chose worse. I'm not looking to save my career. I'm saying that if you are going to measure correctly. Luis crossed his arms. The procedure is clear. For you, it is suspension without pay and the possibility of termination for just cause. For her, being the superior, termination has already been applied. It will be on your record that you acknowledged the asymmetry. Acknowledged, as if the verb had any weight against a paycheck. I signed where I had to sign. Oscar offered, if you need to talk to someone, the company provides a hotline. I nodded out of courtesy. I was not going to call. In the hallway, I saw the logo on the wall for the last time. It had never seemed arrogant to me before. That day I saw it as a door closing without a slam. As I left, I ran into Laura in the elevator. Elegant clothes, expensive security makeup. She was carrying the plant she always had in her office in a bag. She looked at me and, for the first time since everything started, she looked down. I will call you, she murmured. No need, I replied. The doors closed between us with that soft sound that expensive metals have. That afternoon, I went to pick up the box that Daniel had left at the reception. The elevator card no longer worked. A guard accompanied me. In the bowl by the entrance, I left the garage remote, the keys, and a tag with my name. The apartment smelled the same as always, but with a different distribution of air, as if the particles had rearranged themselves in my absence. I opened the box. There were my books, my favorite jacket, the notebook where I wrote down ideas for campaigns that were now fossils, and an additional manila envelope with a copy of the insurance policy for the compact car. A short note from Daniel, and signed, plates are returned on Friday at 6 in the evening. Leave it clean. I stood in the middle of the living room looking at the couch where Milo used to turn around 3 times before settling down. I took a step, another. There was nothing of mine that did not fit into 2 suitcases and a box. I thought about Saturday at 5:30 in the afternoon, when Daniel always set up the coffee maker for the next day. I thought that the world does not collapse all at once, but rather it tightens screws until you cannot move. At 8:45 that night, Laura sent me a message. Laura, they offered me a deal if I sign a non-disclosure agreement. No severance, with an exchange of confidentiality documents. I'm thinking of signing. Me, if you do not sign what? Laura, litigation, internal press, clients finding out. I do not have the stomach for it. Me, I do not have the margin. Laura, I cannot help you. I laughed dryly. She was honest. Finally. I covered the phone and left it face down. The apart hotel smelled of cheap disinfectant and clothes that never fully dry. I slept poorly again. I dreamed of elevators that never go to the right floor. The next day I returned the car. The agency official checked it, nodded. I signed on the line for voluntary return of plates. I walked 5 blocks to the bus. I sat by the window. I cried silently. No one asked me anything, and I was grateful for that urban pact. On Saturday, an email from Daniel's lawyer arrived with the steps for the divorce. Dates, deadlines, links to sign. The conduct clause from the prenuptial agreement was highlighted in yellow. I read it again as if the letters would change. They did not. The item about Milo had an additional paragraph, monthly visits supervised by the gentleman, as long as the lady maintains boundaries and respect. In case of any violation, the gentleman may suspend visits. It seemed to be written by a judge who had learned to use adverbs like lux. I wrote to Daniel. Me, I can see Milo this week. I will not talk to you about anything else. He took his time. At 6:15 in the afternoon, Daniel replied, Wednesday 7 in the evening, at the building's park. Half an hour. I did not use hearts, I did not use, thank you, with exclamation marks. I put, I will be there. On Wednesday I arrived 20 minutes early, as if that would do any good. Daniel came down with Milo and a new harness I did not recognize. The dog saw me, wagged his tail, and, for 2 seconds, I thought the laws of the world could be repealed. He jumped on me. I cried right there, with my hands on his neck and my heart dripping. Daniel waited to the side. He did not touch me. He did not leave. He did not offer me a tissue. He is adapting, he said, as if the matter was not overwhelming us. I already take him to the big park twice. He smells like shampoo, I replied as if we were in another time. We stood in silence, watching Milo chase a ball that someone else had thrown. When he got tired, he sat next to me and rested his head on my knee like before. The body remembers more than the mind. I'm not going to ask you for anything you do not want, I said. Just let me see him for a little while, once a month. That is what the agreement says, he answered. I will honor it if you honor it. I nodded. I wanted to say I know. I said I know. How are you? I asked, violating one of my own internal rules. He thought. He did not look for a kind phrase. He said, good. Sleepy but good. I'm eating better. I'm going to therapy. Work has absorbed me less than I imagined. And he looked at the dog, who looked back at him. He forces me to go out. I'm glad, I said, feeling the word was a stone. When the half hour was up, Daniel bent down, put the harness on Milo, and said, let us go. Milo looked at me with that nobility that knows nothing of contracts. He left with Daniel. He stopped twice to see if I was coming. I did not. I watched them walk away. I was left with when the dog left as he passed. I went back to the apart hotel and sat down to look for jobs like someone flipping through albums from another life. I sent resumes to smaller agencies, to startups looking for a growth lead, to medium-sized companies with salaries that would have seemed low to me before. I set my LinkedIn to open to work. That green badge is a lifesaver and a sign of failure at the same time. The first response came quickly. Recruiter, agency question, we have seen your profile. We would like to interview you tomorrow at 10 in the morning. Our client is confidential. I accepted. At 10, I was on a video call with a woman with a kind voice who got straight to the point. We talked about campaigns, about CAC, about funnels. It was going well until she said, we have to be transparent. We received a reference from your company. It is not good. They talk about an internal investigation for a relationship with a superior. I will not ask for details, but I need to know if it is a risk for us. I swallowed hard. I'm not going to lie to you, I said. It is true. I had a relationship with my boss. It was consensual. It was a serious offense. I was suspended. I will probably be fired. I'm not going to speak ill of her. I will say that I learned the hard way that there are lines you do not cross. If you hire me, I will not cross them here, and I can prove it by working. The recruiter made a gesture I could not interpret. I understand, she said. I'm not promising anything. I will write to you. She did not write. Another agency offered me a freelance contract per project with payment in 60 days, no guarantees, with clauses that seemed written by someone who hates freelancers. I accepted anyway, I had no choice. I spent 2 weeks working on a campaign for a product I was embarrassed to recommend. I delivered. After 60 days, they paid me half. When I asked about the other half, they replied that the client was not satisfied with the metrics, therefore, we are applying the performance clause. I learned the hard way that when you are down, people think they can negotiate the ground from under you. The email from the company arrived on a Tuesday at 8:30 in the morning. Subject: Employment Decision Patricia G. Body. After the conclusion of the disciplinary process, it has been decided to terminate your contract with just cause for violation of the hierarchical relationship policy. The decision is final. Your severance will only include the legal concepts for days worked. There will be no indemnity. You are reminded of the validity of the confidentiality and non-solicitation of clients clauses. I read non-solicitation of clients twice. I had already sent messages to 2 contacts from my old portfolio to offer my services as a freelancer. I deleted the chats. 20 minutes later, legal sent me a separate email reminding me that the non-solicitation applied for 12 months and that any attempt will be considered a breach with the pertinent legal actions. It was elegant, but the meaning was clear. Do not even think about it. That afternoon, Laura wrote to me. Laura, I signed the agreement. No severance. They took me off the association's speaker list. My wife left with her sister. She says she needs air. Me, I'm sorry, Laura. Not for you. Laura, I know. Laura, I was offered independent consulting. Nothing serious. They asked for references. The club is over. Me? What will you do? Laura, sell the apartment, move down 2 floors, take off the ring. Not necessarily in that order. I closed the chat window. I opened another, rooms for rent. I looked for something I could afford with what I did not have. I found a room in a shared apartment with 2 women and a cat named Pluto. Month-to-month lease. Owner, Marlon, an artist. I went to see it. It had plants, paintings, mismatched chairs, and a kindness I did not deserve. Nobody asks about the past here, said Marlon. We just ask that you wash your dishes. I can pay the first month and a deposit, I said. Nothing more. I have seen people fall worse and get up, she replied as if I had confessed. Leave the deposit and bring your things. I gave her the money with sweaty hands. I went back to the apart hotel, packed, called a taxi. Pluto sniffed me with curiosity when I arrived. I fell asleep that night to the sound of a ventilation I did not know and with the feeling that the word home is a privilege. I started measuring my life in gigabytes of internet and hours of light. The personal card survived by the grace of a subscription canceled in time. I sold a pair of expensive shoes that I loved and that now seemed like a joke. I sold a designer bag that Laura gave me for a birthday we celebrated in her secondary office. I sold it for half of what it was worth and my hands still trembled as I handed it over. Daniel wrote to me 2 more times about process matters. Sign here. Review this. Efficient, nothing more. On the second visit to Milo, I was on time. Daniel was standing there in a sweatshirt I did not recognize. He looked calm, not advertisement happy, but calm like someone who sleeps and eats at regular hours. He is eating different kibble, he told me, as if we were talking about the weather. It suits him better. His coat looks shinier, I replied, touching his ear. I'm talking to the landlord about moving to a place with a bigger balcony, he added. So he can have a spot in the sun. Sounds good, I said, trying not to let my voice betray me. We were silent. Milo licked my hand. He made a cross on my palm with his tongue. I interpreted it as an absolution I was not entitled to. Thank you for being respectful of the boundaries, Daniel said at the end. Thank you for, I searched for a word, making this possible. He nodded. He left. I stayed watching the park lights turn on one by one as if someone were marking the rhythm of a heartbeat that was no longer mine. One afternoon, I received a notification with a red tag that said urgent, joint card debt. I opened it in a panic. It was purchases from months ago, including the hotel, that were listed as disputed due to the separation of accounts. I attached Daniel's email from the bank where he said he would take care of everything that was his responsibility. They replied, the room was covered by the joint account. 50% corresponds to each cardholder. I had to pay that 50%. It was the most expensive hotel I did not enjoy paying for. I wrote to Laura. I got a bill for Hotel X. Did you get it too? Laura, I paid for that one with my personal card. They will not refund me. It is done. I'm saying this because. Laura, I'm not going to fight over that. I have other bills. That was the last time we spoke. In week 6, Marlon asked me with surgical sweetness not to leave dishes in the sink. I know you are going through something, she said, but mold does not understand crises. I laughed. I washed. Pluto observed me from the refrigerator and in different prints. I learned to separate the trash, to buy rice in small bags, to calculate if I could go see Milo by bus, or if that day I could afford an Uber. One Sunday at the market, I ran into a colleague from the office. She saw me, hesitated to say hello. She said hello. Hi, Patty. Hi, Elle. I did not know how to call her without seeming like I knew her too well or too little. How is everything? Weird, she said. They changed the structure. Anna now reports directly to legal. They merged marketing with another VP. They put up a "we reaffirm our policies" on the internet. They used your case as a case study in a slide, without names. My ears burned. And you? She asked. Freelance, I lied elegantly. I did not say getting paid in 60 days. I did not say selling shoes. If you need anything, she left the sentence open, knowing there was nothing she could do without risking herself. Thanks, I replied. We said goodbye like a generation says goodbye to a volcano, looking sideways so as not to tempt it. The months piled up. I signed the divorce papers in a notary's office that smelled of ink and old wood. Daniel was there at 10 sharp. Dark suit, light shirt, trimmed beard. There was no resentment, there was distance. We signed in silence, and when the official said, "Congratulations," I knew it was not irony. That is how they close any procedure. "I wish you well," Daniel told me at the door. "I wish you better," I managed to say with an honesty that surprised me. He nodded. We did not hug. We went our separate ways, as if the floor had been drawn with chalk. That night, back in Marlon's room, I opened the nightstand drawer and took out Milo's keychain. I had placed it face down, like an amulet I did not want to tempt. I looked at it, then put it back. Laura briefly resurfaced on social media 2 months later with a LinkedIn post, "Independent consultant. I help brands scale with purpose." No one commented with applause. 2 lukewarm likes. A week later, she posted photos in a co-working space. 3 weeks later, an anonymous thread on an industry forum recounted her fall with gossip that mixed truths and embellishments. The thread did not have my name, but it had my hours. One afternoon, while I was in line to top up my phone, I received an email from the marketing association where she used to give talks. Subject: Reinforced Code of Conduct. We invite all members to sign an addendum. A list of those sanctioned for undeclared hierarchical conflicts will be included. I did not know if I was on the list. I did not want to ask. Ruin does not arrive in a truck with a loudspeaker. It arrives in installments. The day you borrow money from a friend who does not judge you. The day you say you cannot go because the night bus does not go through that neighborhood. The day you get a call from an unknown number and answer thinking it might be work, and it is the bank offering you a card you will not be approved for. But it also arrives in gestures. The day Daniel posts a story, I saw it by chance, I do not stalk him, it just appeared, where Milo is running in a huge park I do not recognize, and he is laughing with a sound I had not heard from him in years. The day an ex-colleague writes to me, "Daniel looks good, he deserves it." And I, against all pride, nod from the shadows as if my nod were needed. One Friday night, Laura called me. I did not answer. She left a message. My wife sued me for emotional abandonment. Her voice sounded worn out. I sold the apartment. I'm living in a studio. If it is any consolation, I did not get out unscathed either. If it bothers you, that is valid too. I do not know why I called you. Maybe because you understand this kind of silence with the one who created it. I deleted the message. Not out of malice, out of hygiene. The last time I saw Daniel outside of our Milo appointment was at a traffic light. I was on a bus. He was driving a different car, new to me, maybe rented. He had the window down, his arm out, his hair a little longer. He was smiling. Not at anyone in particular. He was smiling at the air. He did not see me. I did not call out to him. I looked down. I was surprised to find myself smiling too, in a small way, because something was where it was supposed to be. I did small jobs. A restaurant paid me to write their new menu. A therapist hired me to make him a simple web page. I learned more about CSS than I would have if my life had not gone up in flames. Marlon told me, that is also work. I nodded. I started writing everything down as if I were keeping an oxygen ledger. One morning, the kind recruiter wrote to me. "Recruiter, the client thing did not work out. Not because of you, because of the budget. I have you on my radar." I replied with a thank you that no longer had anxiety. I realized I had stopped wanting to go back to exactly the same place as before. That place did not want me, and I did not owe it anything. On a rainy Wednesday, the visit to Milo was different. Daniel wrote to me beforehand. He has an upset stomach. "Let us not go to the park. If you want, you can stop by the lobby for 10 minutes. I went up. Milo was calm, a little sluggish, but when he saw me, he wagged his tail as if gravity only affected him by half. I petted him carefully. Daniel offered me a towel to dry my hair. I took it. "Thanks," I said. "You are welcome," he replied. "Are you working?" "Yes, small things, learning others." "Good." There was a silence that did not hurt. "I have started running," he added as if sharing a recipe. "It helps me." "I'm glad," I replied. "Long walks help me." "When it is not raining, it rains less than it seems," he said. I smiled. It was a phrase from the old Daniel. He held it in the air for a second, then let it go. When I left, he said, "Thanks for taking care of this." The visit, the boundaries, life. I did not know what to say. I said, goodbye. It was enough. I started to build something resembling a routine. Wake up, write for a while, go for a walk, come back, look for clients, eat rice and eggs, and hopefully something more. I became a good neighbor. I took out the trash, watered Marlin's plants when she was away, bought litter for Pluto if it ran out. It was not redemption, it was order. A month later, I received an email from a small company that makes backpacks. We saw you worked on big campaigns. We know what happened, yes. We do not care. We need someone to sort out our funnel. We pay little, we pay on time. Are you interested? I replied yes. We met at a coffee shop. The owner, a young man who looked you in the eye, said, I do not have time for gossip. I want to sell backpacks. You know how to make people understand why one backpack is better than another. Do it without any weird stories, and I will pay you at the end of each week. Deal, I said. It was not glamour. It was honest work. I held on to it. One afternoon, while setting up an email sequence for the backpacks, I saw a post on social media shared by someone from Daniel's work. Congratulations to our new director of product. The photo was of him smiling without excess, in a shirt that fit him well and a look that no longer asked anything of me. Below, comments, you deserve it, champ, finally. I wished him well without sending him a message. I understood that his form of revenge, if that word applies, was surgical. He delivered me to reality and got on with his life. When I learned that he moved to an apartment with a large balcony and shade plants, I learned it from third parties, not from him. It seemed fair. I heard rumors about Laura that a client had hired her on the side and then dropped her, that she had tried to start a firm with 2 partners and it did not work out, that her wife, ex-wife, took their dog, which was not Milo, but surely had a name and its own bed. One day someone sent me, without context, a screenshot, a mass email where she offered career mentoring for women in marketing. I was indignant, I laughed, then I fell silent. Life goes on, even when coherence does not. Ruin for me was not living under a bridge, it was something else, no longer being welcome in rooms where I used to enter without showing credentials, erasing my name from a case study I had written, hearing my name whispered in the passive voice. They say that. I was told that, I heard. You will enter other rooms again, Marlin told me one day with a cup of tea in her hand. Different ones. Better ones, if you ask me. I do not know, I replied. Maybe it is not about entering. Maybe it is about opening a door that does not have a guard, like this one, she said, pointing to our messy kitchen. We laughed. Pluto jumped on the table. I took him down. He scratched me for sport. We moved on. One night, an unnecessary one, my mother called. Until that moment, she only knew that I had changed apartments for work-related reasons. Your aunt saw Daniel at the store and said she does not see you much, she let out, as if testing the waters. We are separated, I said. We got divorced. It was my fault. Silence. Long. Then her voice without drama. Well, then get settled, and if you need to come, you come. I do not promise silence, a brief laugh, but I promise soup. I cried with a simple gratitude. I did not go to her house, but I saved the soup as a possibility. The following months made the closure clear. The case at the company was filed away with reinforced policies, mandatory ethics workshops that my ex-colleagues silently detested. Daniel stopped appearing on my radar, except for the monthly appointment with Milo. The professionalization of his distance was medicine. I managed to earn a modest and regular income with the backpack company. I learned to say no to projects with abusive clauses. I opened a new notebook where I wrote on the first page 3 rules that are not universal axioms. They are mine. Never mix hierarchy and bed. The bed does not compensate for any structure, it destroys it. Silence is a decision. If you do not name what you do it worse. I will not negotiate with shame. I will use it as a reminder, not as a home. I did not write it to publish, I wrote it not to forget. Epilogue. The full bill. I leave it here at the point where endings are not heroic or photogenic. They are facts. Laura ended up out of the company without severance. She sold her apartment, moved to a studio, lost contracts, did freelance consulting. The association excluded her from the speaker list. Her ex-wife sued her for emotional abandonment. They settled out of court. Today, she posts little. When she does, it is a carousel with phrases about learning from mistakes. I do not know if she believes it. It is not my place. I was fired with just cause, without indemnity, with a label. I paid 50% of a room that now only weighs on my bank statement. I went back to a room with someone else's plants and a cat that does not ask for explanations. I work with backpacks, with small pages, with small businesses looking for a real click. I no longer have a corporate card or dinners disguised as offsites. If this is ruin, it is a livable ruin, an orderly room, accounts at zero at the end of the month. Dignity in installments. Do not expect a moral. Expect functionality. Daniel was promoted to director of product. He runs in the mornings. He moved to an apartment with a large balcony where Milo sleeps in the sun. I see him for half an hour a month, and that half hour is worth more than many other things I did not know how to measure before. Daniel does not write to me except for logistics. He never raised his voice that he never raised. His revenge, as far as I'm concerned, took away my ability to keep lying, and he moved on with his life. It is the most effective form of revenge that exists. There is no spectacular redemption, no final speech with highlightable phrases, there are only consequences. They asked me for an ending, and here it is. The person who is unfaithful, me, did not get better through willpower or a calendar moral. I got better in what I could. I stopped causing harm, I accepted bills, I paid what I could pay. I gave up on scenes where you only get applause if you do not look. The other unfaithful person, she, did not get out unscathed. And the one who is not unfaithful? Him. He did not need to hurt me for the damage to reach me. He simply opened the window and let the air in. If I ever write anything else, it will not be to justify myself. It will be to remember that there are lines that are not metaphors, they are limits, and that bills do not always come with a date. They arrive when someone, calmly, says, I'm going to name it.